Hello and welcome to March's Feature of the Month. I'm Kevin Mosley, Director of Enterprise Support here at BlueCat, and today we're talking about CVEs and how BlueCat addresses vulnerabilities in our product and how you can explain to your security team the cadence of updates and when issues will be addressed. When we're talking vulnerabilities, there's two really major types. There's the high risk, remotely exploitable vulnerabilities that need to be addressed immediately. And then there's the other ones that are lower priority or require shell access already to be executed. And so those are updated in the cumulative releases. The hotfix ones are things like log4j and other bind vulnerabilities that could present a risk to your organization and need to be addressed immediately. These will be released with a hotfix and a number, and you'll be notified by email or your support staff to apply these updates and remediate the issue. The other vulnerabilities that are lower risk, that are not as an issue as those other ones that I mentioned, are addressed in our cumulative releases. And what we're going to go over in this video is how does BlueCat update its product? How do we apply the latest security fixes? Where do we get them from? And how can you look at a vulnerability and see if it should have been included in a previous release or will be addressed in the next cumulative release? So with that, let's get to it and take a look at how this works. So this is a security list that we'll often get from customers. And as you can see, it includes CVEs and the package name and things like that. The columns I've added are the fixed version, the 961 version, and any comments that I noted while I was doing this review. And so if we look at the first one, let's pick one of the OpenSSH CVEs. And so we're going to look at this one, copy. And so what we can do is go to Security Tracker on Debian and paste the CVE. And so this gives us, well, what version was this fixed in? Debian has addressed this vulnerability. We can see that it's fixed in Deb 11 U3, U4, and U5 for Bookworm, which is the next release of Debian, or the current release of Debian, which is Debian 12. And then also it's been fixed in the SID Trixie. Trixie is the next release, going to be Debian 13, and SID is the continual testing release. So we can see that despite this being on the list, we're not vulnerable to this. Why does this happen? Well, security scanners often just use version numbers. And so it probably was looking for something like 9.9 P2 rather than 8.4 P1. And so what Debian does and other Linux vendors do, like RHEL and others, is they backport security fixes to versions that are installed on their release. And this allows customers to have a stable system that isn't changing. Your scripts you wrote 2 years ago will still run on the site, on the server, because the package hasn't changed, and therefore there has been no changes in binary behavior. And so basically, even though we're running 8.4 OpenSSH, we're not vulnerable to this because it's been installed. Now, you may ask, well, when was this one fixed? And so what we can do is go look at the Debian package tracker, type open, oops, if I can spell, OpenSSH. And so if we look for 84P1, if we look here, it was accepted on February 18th, 2025 into Old Stable Security. So even though we're not vulnerable, it was still the current one in the security repo was updated, and the one for the Debian Old Stable was actually released a little earlier than that, and which is why version 961 isn't vulnerable. We can see it was accepted December 2023. So for that one, that's pretty straightforward, right? So let's look at a different one. Like if we look at, what's a good one? So this one, let's say Python. These are always good ones. And this is the ones that often get people, oh my gosh, from 2015, this hasn't been fixed. What are you guys doing, BlueCat? And so let's take a look at this one. So this CVE was reported in 2015. So we're going to go to the bug tracker. So while it was reported in 2015, the Python people who build Python didn't fix it until 2020. We'll look at the date when we get to that part, but it wasn't fixed until recently. And therefore, you're going to see this on your list, but there is no fix from the upstream project, in this case, the Python, python.org, or the Python Foundation. And so if we look at what it is, mailcat module does not add escape characters into commands discovered in system mailcat file. Basically, if you're not doing input validation, you could be vulnerable to this. And so it wasn't treated as a high vulnerability because A, we don't use this module from a BlueCat perspective, so it's not running on our system, but it was eventually fixed. And as you can see, the 2.7 version isn't fixed because it's been deprecated. However, you can see that the current version installed on BlueCat, which is our 961, is vulnerable to this because it's 3921, but it was fixed in 392.11U2. So let's take a look at the Python package, right? And we'll make sure to grab this and see when this was released. So we're going to come here. We're going to go back to our search, 3.9. And as you can see, there's the fixed version. We can see that it was accepted in 2024, December 1st, which means that this is post 961. So therefore, you can expect the fix in 962 when it is released. But as you can tell, this isn't a true vulnerability for a BlueCat system. We don't make use of the mailcat module and things like that on a BDDS, and therefore there isn't much risk there. But it will be addressed in the next version. And so that's how we analyze these CVEs and go and look and see, should it have been addressed in the other version? Should it have been, is this a missed vulnerability, which we may get from time to time? And then we can make sure that it will probably be addressed in the next one. If it missed our window of cutting in security updates for, from the release date, to allow for proper testing and things like that, it could be within that window and will be addressed in the next one. So as you can see, I repeated this process for all of these CVEs, and then you can see the date published. And none of these are from before 961's release date. Therefore, I feel fairly confident that most of these, or all of these, will be addressed in the next release in 962, so that these should fall off that list. Thank you for joining me for March's Feature of the Month. I hope you enjoyed learning about how BlueCat addresses security concerns and ensures that you have a secure and robust DDI infrastructure. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to support, and we'll assist in any way that we can. Thank you again for joining, and we'll see you next time.